Thank you. Good evening. I hereby call this November the 8th meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Due to the Safer at Home order, all committee members are participating virtually. For virtual committee meetings, committee members will be muted until asked to be heard. And when there is a vote, it's going to be necessary to take a roll call vote, and a committee member will be recognized or raise their hand and state their vote. I'd like to recognize the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
And Councilmember Taylor.
Here, we have a full committee, and we also have other council members here with us as well. We'd like to take this time, as always, to thank and honor the brave men and women of our police, fire, and emergency management departments for the work that you do to continue to protect and serve our community. We always want to let you know that you are appreciated. So now we'll move to the consent agenda. Members of the council or committee, are there any items that should be pulled from consideration? Councilman Larson.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear from C1 and C2.
I will pull those particular items. Can I get a motion on the balance?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Mundy. Second, Mundy. Did
Thank
you
you,
hear that?
Councilman Mundy.
Okay.
Can we call the roll, please?
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
And Councilmember Taylor.
Yes, so that approves the additions to the consent agenda. So we'll bring up item C1.
Item C1, information on quarterly key work items, capital projects, and performance indicator data.
Councilman Larson.
Yes, these are both of these items that I had pulled are rather dense documents. On the other hand, it's probably not well known by the public of what we do sometimes in our broadcasting and our monitoring our work program and forecasting what we're going to be doing in the years ahead. If we could try to get a summary of maybe what these documents contained and their availability to the public might be useful.
And I think, Mr. Rowler, you're going to give this presentation, or is this Mr. Tesh?
Chairman Taylor, this will be Mr. Tesh.
Mr. Tesh, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairman Taylor, members of the committee. Councilmember Larson, if there's something specific in that question that you'd like me to address, I can go through the item.
I think in C1, the question that was sort of raised in finance, for those of you who did not sit in on the finance committee meeting about previous bond funding projects and how far we're along in the forecasting of when we're going to be completing projects. And I'm hearing a lot about, for example, roads. We recently just approved, just in the last budget, and finance of $2 million something in asphalt money, apparently. And I think there's a lot of interest right now in our roads and parks and things like that. And maybe just a summary of making it available, at least to the public, if they have specific projects that are bond funded, how they can get that information quickly.
Absolutely, Councilmember Larson. So this report, the third part of it does include information, or excuse me, the second part of it on capital projects. I would say the easiest way to get this information is actually go to the city's website. There's a bond tracker available that will show you the current status of all of the 2014 and 2018 bond funded projects. That link has been out there for quite some time, and it is attached to the bond update that is going to Public Works tomorrow as well. So there'll be a presentation specifically on bond-funded projects, general obligation bond, limited obligation bond, and our 2/3 GO bonds. And that link, again, is in the presentation, but we can make that information available to the public in that format as well.
Thank you, Mr. Tesh.
The first sheet in your summary piece, it broke it out by committees as to what has actually been completed or is on schedule, has been delayed. Is that fairly current then?
So that document is for key work items. So it includes specific capital projects as well as program-related projects and reports that need to be done. That is updated as of the end of the quarter. So that would be as of September 30th, the information that you find in that report on key work items. As you continue to scroll through There's a stoplight report, which begins on page 5, and that would be the most updated full listing of our major capital project status. Again, you'll see the green, yellow, or red stoplights, both for project milestone in terms of when it would be completed, as well as the budget for the project.
And how often is that updated?
So that is updated. This is updated every 2 months and used for reporting with the Citizens Bond Oversight Council. And so this information, I believe, timing of this was as of the end of August. They don't get it quarterly; they get it every 2 months. And so when this comes to council quarterly, we provide the most recent update that they have had.
Okay, because I know some projects look a little further along than what's indicated on this particular graphic. Old Salem, for example, it seems to be further along than what's shown here. Yeah, but anyway, so this is available on the city website. This graph, this stoplight graph.
So this would be available through the agenda system on the city's website, and the bond project tracker would have the same information displayed a little differently for each project, and it would be available on a different part of the website. So we have this in multiple places.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Larson, if I heard the city manager correctly in finance, I know he said that it is his priority and the priority of the staff to get these projects done as quickly as possible. Mr. Garrity, is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you, Chairman Taylor. Good evening, everybody. I've also got a request in from Mayor Pro Tem Adams. We will take that dashboard and add a little more information so we can show you how much the projects that aren't done, how much money is left, what is the projection date, as well as if we project any additional overruns. But we'll tweak that to get back out to you very shortly.
Thank you. Councilwoman Scipio.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tesh, I'd just like to make a recommendation that for these reports that are sent to us, if the date of the report is on the front page, some of us keep up with these reports, and just so that I'll know this was this month's report, the next time we have it, it would be good to have the date on the next one so we'll know which one's the most current. That was it.
Thank you, ma'am. And this is an informational item, so we'll move from item C1 to item C2. Madam Clerk, if you can call that one, please.
Item C2, update on draft strategic plan for fiscal years 2022 through 2025.
Recognize Mr. Larson.
Yes, I had the same sort of concern about public access and transparency about what we're planning to do in this city. And I thought it was particularly important to begin to look at the priorities the city had in relationship to the ARFID money and how we're spending that in relationship to our city goals. And so I think some of this was brought up again in finance earlier this evening and may not need to be repeated. But I think it's important for people to understand the strategic. I know when I came on council, I didn't know we had a strategic plan that went out 3 years. And I think most citizens probably don't know that. And I was particularly excited to see parts of it dealing with travel and tourism, which I think are very, very valuable. And that document appears, that the wordage appears consistently in this long range plan for the next 3 years. So I think it's important for people that have interest in Parks and Rec or various sundry things who want to take a look at this document and see how it folds into their aspirations of what the city wants to be in 3 years. So I'm assuming this is available also online or available, in some way that this public can get to it easily. It's dense. It's a dense document. I'm not expecting you guys to go through the thing tonight, but I do think it's important that people be pulled off the consent agenda and be accentuated how important this document is to city planning. And if it's not in this document, then we need to look at it again later and to get a chance to think about it in the future.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Larson, this document now having come to City Council will be available in draft format for the public to review.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on item C2? And then we complete the consent agenda. We'll now move to the general agenda. We have 2 items on the general agenda. First item G1, please.
Item G1, ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the City Code entitled Fire Prevention and Protection, Open Burning Ordinance.
All right. Before we get to the chief, I'd like to recognize Assistant City Manager Tony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Taylor and members of the committee and council. These two general agenda items are in reference to two ordinance. One's open burning and one is combustible landscape. And our fire chief, Chief Trey Mayo, will review item G1.
Chief Mayo, how are you, sir?
Outstanding, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, and good evening to Mayor Pro Tem Adams and members of the committee and council that are with us tonight. I'm going to share my screen. You see a PowerPoint with a Winston-Salem fire patch in the middle? No, you can't see it yet. How about now?
Here we go. We're there.
Yep.
So, Chief Byram, Assistant Chief Tad Byram, and Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal Tad Byram, he shared these with you in September, I believe, as information items. So we're coming back to you tonight to ask for approval of these proposed burning, the proposed open burning ordinance, and then the next item is the combustible landscape ordinance, excuse me. So for open burning, these are some of the things we're talking about, outdoor fireplaces and chimeneas and campfires and things like that. And the challenge with the current ordinance language is it's a little bit brief and doesn't address modern products that are in use, like the chimeneas and the proliferation of outdoor fireplaces that we've seen recently. It does permit recreational and cooking fires that are confined to a container as long as they are 25 feet or greater from the nearest structure. And the ordinance contains language with the expectation that these be lit with kindling, not using ignitable liquids, those sorts of things, and that people burn seasoned firewood in them. And it stipulates that the fire be no wider than 2 feet and higher than 3 feet. So people can have a bonfire if they need to do so, for like a ceremonial purpose, but they would have to apply for a permit for fires that large. I've already talked about the accelerants. The proposed ordinance prohibits burning dimensional lumber, and that's actually covered in the state fire code. You cannot burn garbage or yard waste, those sorts of things. The county ordinance that is in place talks about fires that emit nuisance smoke and that sort of thing. So that is covered. And there's language there that gives us the authority to ban burning in situations where, we have extended drought, humidity is low, winds are high. And we have a handful of days like that typically each spring and sprinkled throughout the year at other times, just when things happen coincidentally. We would enforce this ordinance on a complaint basis by on-duty fire personnel, and that's what we're currently doing. What we get with this proposed ordinance, if you all so choose to send it to the council and it is adopted, is we get some clear language that lends to consistency and gives the company officers who are going out and enforcing the ordinance something to work from that they're really lacking right now. There is an existing ordinance, but this is much clearer, and again has been brought up to kind of reflect what's going on in the modern world. And that's it, Mr. Chairman. I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Chief Mayo on item G1? If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Monday.
Hey, I had a question. I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
didn't see you, Mr. Monday.
Thank you, Chairman. Chief Mayo, is there a communications plan at this point, or will that be developed afterwards, after this is passed?
So we will put this information out through our social media channels. The marketing department will help us. It's out on, we'll put it on our website. Most of the information will go out to folks who are calling us now and saying, hey, can I burn this? Can I have that? Can I do something else? And again, because of the lack of clarity and the brevity of the current ordinance, we really don't have anything to stand on as firmly as we would like to, but we will have an education effort. And again, our company officers who go out, we handle these requests for service pretty routinely. They get dispatched to us as illegal burning, and our company officers are trying to make the determination when they arrive on scene as to whether it is illegal or not. That'll be much easier and much more consistent with the adoption of this ordinance. But that's how the educational piece will happen.
One of the things I've discovered in speaking with citizens is it's not just this particular issue, but others, fireworks and so forth. I think there are many people that just don't realize that enforcement is done on a complaint or reporting basis. And I hope that we can figure out how to reinforce that communication throughout the city, that if you've got a problem with a neighbor or someone being illegal, burning trash, or shooting off fireworks, that it is up to that individual to report it so something can be done about it. I just don't know that that word is out there as widely as it should be.
We can add some robustness to our efforts and cover that gap.
Thank you.
Councilman Larson.
Chief Mayor, thank you for this presentation. Could you go back to the slide that you had, or the PowerPoint image that you had of all the outdoor burning places, and tell us which, if any of those are illegal or need to be modified to come various
Is this a slide? Oh, sorry.
It's the one where it shows all the outdoor, all of these various fires.
So all of these would be legal as long as they are contained, they are 25 feet or greater from a structure, and they are burning cut seasoned firewood. They're not using accelerants. They're not burning trash, yard waste, dimensional lumber. Those sorts of things. But everything you see here, there's nothing in the ordinance or in state law that stipulates that something has to be commercially produced or signed off on by UL or Factory Mutual. That decision is left up to the local code enforcement or fire official.
Yeah. So barbecue briquettes, charcoal briquettes are still authorized and have to be wood. And that looks like a fire barrel, which could be a construction site. Would that pass your code?
So you can have a fire barrel on a construction site, but you cannot be burning construction debris or dimensional lumber. You would have to use it for cooking or heating purposes, burning firewood that's intended for that purpose. Now, cooking fires fall into a different, you mentioned charcoal briquettes. Cooking fires fall into that puts you in a different category where cooking fires are largely unregulated. As long as so there are laws about having grills and propane fired appliances, cooking appliances on decks, porches, those sorts of parts of multifamily housing. But if somebody wanted to take a grill and light it in the middle of their living room floor, if they're living in a single family residence, there's no ordinance or law that addresses that, and that goes back to kind of a person's house is his or her castle. The state of North Carolina has taken a position of being very hands-off in 1 and 2 family dwellings.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
If there are no other questions for Chief Mayo, can I get a motion on the floor on item G1?
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes. Item G1 is approved unanimously. Item G2, please.
Item G2, ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the City Code entitled Fire Prevention and Protection, Combustible Landscape Ordinance.
Chief Mayo.
Thank you again. I have another screen share. And do you see a slideshow there with the patch again in the middle?
Not this time.
Not this time. We see slide number 8.
There we go.
There you
How
go.
about now? All right,
Yeah.
success. So the focus of this ordinance is primarily pine straw, and that's due to pine straw's high flame spread rating. Pine straw is very light and fluffy. It has a high surface area to bulk ratio. Pine straw naturally contains resins that are flammable. It dries fast. The wind blows through it easily. In laboratory testing, pine straw has been shown to burn 6 to 10 times faster than most other things that we would consider mulch or landscape material. There have been a number of fires around the country where pine straw has contributed to fire spread. This was one, and I remember this fire in Raleigh in a subdivision called Pine Knoll Towns, and it made the national news. It is kind of one of the standards by which others are measured. Depending on who you ask, somewhere between 27 and 36 townhomes burned in this fire. But pine straw, the fire was determined to have started as a result of improperly discarded smoking material in pine straw. And there are a few fire departments. It was a windy day. I remember it was a windy spring day. There are a few fire departments in the country who can put enough people on the scene and have enough water supply to catch up to an event like this. It essentially is going to burn until you can cut it off, between townhomes, or it burns to the end of the road and just sort of burns out of fuel. We had one here back in January, and I have some helmet cam video. This is a little bit Blair Witchy, but bear with me. I'm gonna get it started and then I'm gonna run it up. And what you'll see here is, so this is engineer Drew Shelton. This is off of it's on High Meadows Drive, which is off of Robin Hood Road. This will be engine 18. So station 18 is there at the corner of, essentially at the corner of Peace Haven and Robin Hood, there behind the Lowe's Foods. So this is engine 18. They're first arriving. Engineer Drew Shelton is in command, and this is his helmet cam. He's going to walk around the back of the engine, and what you're going to see is fire in the pine straw as a result of improperly discarded smoking materials, and it has extended. It has run up the vinyl siding, and you'll see smoke beginning to show from the ridge line on both sides of the stairwell, where that fire is making its access into the attic as they arrive on scene.
Oh my God.
So what happens there is, if we don't get there in time, we to get it stopped, the roof burns off. There's no, with the exception of a fire partition or a fire wall sometimes that separates living units in the attic space. When fire gets in the attic, it's got access to a lot of dry wood and plenty of air. And if we don't get there in time, it just burns the roof off. And I mean, it happens all the time, in Winston-Salem and in other places around the country. It's important to remember, apartment and townhome living is efficient. Heating costs are low. It's convenient, particularly for, folks who don't, are trying to buy a house or don't think they're going to be in the area long, that sort of thing. But when your home is connected to somebody else's home, you are subject to the carelessness of your neighbor. So that's one of the reasons we are pushing this or requesting this from you, because both the fires I've shown you here in my slideshow tonight, that was due to carelessness in the form of improperly discarded smoking materials. This ordinance was developed. We reached out to the primary stakeholder organization in the Triad, the Piedmont Triad Apartment Association. We also got assistance, and we being Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal Tad Byram and Deputy Fire Marshal Angela Sowell. We also got assistance from Pridgeon Green and Lori Sykes, our public safety attorneys. We appreciate their assistance. But this would address pine straw within 10 feet of exterior finishes that are aluminum, masonite, vinyl, or wood. So you could put pine straw up against brick if you wanted to, because it's considered a non-combustible exterior finish. As with the council member Larson's question earlier about cooking fires and that sort of thing. And, me saying, if you want to cook with a grill in your living room, you can do that. And as this does not apply to 1 and 2 family dwellings. And it does not include pine straw that just naturally occurs in somebody's yard from, if they have pine trees and that pine straw falls as a natural process. We know that these other municipalities in the state have similar ordinances, and we are expecting, if you all refer this to council and it is adopted as an ordinance here in Winston-Salem, we are expecting Kernersville and Forsyth County to follow suit. This ordinance would be enforced through our code enforcement officials in the Fire and Life Safety Branch. So at apartment complexes and townhomes, we are doing regular inspections in the common areas, stairwells, office spaces. We are inspecting decks, things that we can see from the outside. We cannot go in the individual living units by law. But that's the position we'll take on enforcing this ordinance, and we also respond to complaints. Property owners would have a year to comply, and if they have pine straw down, they would not have to remove it if they want to put mulch or pine bark or brick chips or something. They could just place it on top. So we try to be as friendly with this as we could. And again, Mr. Chairman, I'll entertain any questions you or anyone else may have.
Any questions for Chief Mayo? And Chief, if you could remove the screen so I can see all the council members, please. Councilman Larson.
Chief, how did the people get out of that duplex apartment with the fire in the stairwell like that?
Well, I don't know the details of that fire. I do know that there were no injuries, so I don't know if we caught it when nobody was home, or if neighbors made notification before the stairwell got so involved with fire that they could not use that as a means of exit.
Terrifying. Thanks, your men, for taking care of that.
Surely.
All right, is there a motion on item G2?
So
Move for
moved.
approval. Second.
We've got a bunch of motions and seconds. Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy,
Aye.
and Councilmember Taylor.
Yes. So item G2 is approved unanimously. That completes our agenda. Ms. Tony, is there any other business that should be brought forth for our consideration at this time?
Chairman Taylor, not at this time. Thank you.
All right, members of the council and committee, any other business that should be considered for the good of the order? Seeing no further business, we'll hereby consider this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.